I stayed up and watched the Celtics last night, and I couldn't understand after watching the Bruins tonight.
We are live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's Board of Health meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. First, we'll do roll call. Alan Greenberg, present.
John Pickner, present.
Joyce Gilmore, present.
Colleen Straponi, present.
Jack McClellan, present.
All right, gang's all here. All right, next we'll do good and welfare for the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak from the audience? Doesn't appear so. Go to the next item. New business, DB Mart. Gentlemen?
Good evening. My name is Edward Groark, and I'm here with my client.
Your last one.
And he's the proprietor of the DB Mart. And we're here to request the board to reconsider its decision of a 7-day suspension of the sale of tobacco products that was issued in late April. And we're here because my client was unaware of the requirement of checking ID for every purchaser of tobacco products. And they had followed the what they believe was a longstanding policy or practice of checking the ID for anyone who had the appearance of 27 or under. And I believe that was not a formal policy, it was a practice that was followed. So there, and then after I got involved, looked into it, and I realized and found out that the town had adopted a new regulation that was what I believe to be effective on January 1st of 2024, that did require the checking of ID for every purchaser. So my client was unaware of that, and now that they are aware of it, and they do have the signage that was provided to them, and that's now on display. And they also have the apparatus that requires the ID to be checked before a cigarette sale can be done on their what do you call it? Used to be called a cash register.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in there. So
Point of
any-
sale.
Thank you, point of sale. So anyway, I just went to the store myself and I saw this in action, and the cigarette pack is scanned, and then the point of sale machine stops and says, check the ID. Take your license out, and it gets scanned also, barcode in the back, and then you can proceed with the sale. So that is in place now. The signage is in place and prominently displayed. And my client wants to, meet the needs of its customers while complying with the law. So it is a significant part of their business, and the suspension would be a real burden for them, and would pose a real economic hardship to my client and his family. So we are seeking, and in this case, the violation was not an actual sale to a minor, it was a sale without checking the ID. So, and even the previous violation did not involve the actual sale to a minor. It was had to do with the locking mechanism of the display case. So, we do feel that those factors should be taken into account, and that now that he's aware of the new regulations, and he's taken some action to put the things in effect to comply with it and make sure that it won't be violated again.
Jack, what's our policy when we come out with new regulations or for anything?
It goes in the newspaper, then they'll have hard copies once they're approved.
Okay, so the store owner should have received a copy of the new regulation.
Yes, after December 6th, yes.
Okay. After what date?
December 6th is when the board approved it.
Okay. So you were sent a copy of the new regulation that was gonna take effect January 1st, 2024.
No, unfortunately, I'm not aware of that. I never see this. If I saw her, it's easy for me. We spent good money for that. After your last meeting, 2 days after we imposed this one. So there's no question, this is not only cigarettes. All tobacco products, vape, nicotine, everything we put inside. So there's no question anybody able to buy anything from my store. If I know that, I would have been living in a peace, because then I have no problem that somebody is not taking care of the, or some kid able to guard it, because this system, I appreciate it, and I really want this one. So we should, if I know that, I will promptly impose this one, because this one take me away from everything. So I'm not afraid of now, because I'm at home and my employees sometimes, they overload, whatever, they have a reason. But for this, they scan it, and this screen is not going to move until unless they scan the ID. And when we scan the ID, it appears, I should have bring the other, the next page, it shows the number, everything, the age and everything, and it says successful ID. And then we go here, next step, take the payment. So there is no question, but I really told you that if I know that, I would have accepted. And I was honest to you for that day too, that I am not aware of this. My first offense was the lock, I told you, lock was there, but what happened, it was play. Fair enough. And I told them that you have to recheck the lock. Whenever you sold anything, you lock it, don't go before you slide again and check it's locked. Because those are, he knows those are locked. They are double hinges locked from China, $6, $7, not that hard. It's play. I showed him this morning, this time, that if you open like 6, 7 times, it's play inside. So they are not something reliable that you lock it and it's locked. But now my girls and everybody know that they have to recheck. If it's not locked, make sure it's locked. So this question is done. You can come anytime, you check with them, you send somebody, most welcome, because that's the way it should be.
All right.
But this one, I did it before your, because I know that I have to take some real action to show you that how I'm sincere to have this. But this kind of hardship, I won't be able to take it, because 7 months, 7 days, I can tell you, you can visit my store and see, I will be able to sell only candy and cigarette, or candy and soda.
Okay.
And nobody is going to drive from home to come to my store to buy a soda. It's gonna kill my business. Not only for 170.
I'd like to give the other board members a chance to ask questions or comment. Joyce, Tom?
Well, I was just gonna say, I'd probably prefer an order to, where the attorney has already spoken to the position from our standpoint. We do have our attorney on as well, who has kind of reviewed the situation. So from my perspective, I'd kind of like to get Karis's input to what's been discussed so far and, to the action that the board has taken. Karis, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, happy to share my thoughts. You all should have received a memo that really laid out the facts as I could determine them based on the documents in the record. I think there are a couple of things that I want to note. In the file is a copy of the most recent tobacco permit, which was sent on December 20th, 2023, and it notes again in that cover letter to the permit that updated Mendon tobacco regulations will be effective starting January 1, 2024. So there certainly was additional notice and reminder about those regulations. The regulation is while it is part of the underage and not selling tobacco to someone over 21, and there's no assertion that that's what happened here. The regulations do say quite clearly that every person selling or distributing tobacco products shall first verify the age of every purchaser of tobacco products by means of a valid government issued photographic ID. And that every is actually even bolded in the regulation. So I think it underscores how serious that is. So when the violation was issued in March of 2024 to the owner for the failure to check ID, there was a ticket issued, and I note that the owner did actually sign the ticket and indicated that they had agreed that they committed the offense, and they paid the $250 fine, and that was on March 27th. I think that the regulations are clear as well in the penalty section S2B. In the case of a second violation within 36 months of the date of the prior violation, a fine of $250, which has already been paid, and the tobacco product sales permit shall be suspended for 7 consecutive business days. It is a shall, it's not a may. So it is mandatory for the board, in my opinion, to impose the 7-day suspension. Now, if they decide to take a different route, I don't see anything in the regulations that gives them the ability to vary that language. But you know, there is always some potential to do that. I just don't see any basis in the regulations to do anything other than what's laid out as a violation in the regulations.
Thank you, Karis.
Anything else, Tom?
No, and then beyond that, I know that Colleen has been kind of key and instrumental, so from her perspective and what she's been kind of dealing with in the situation, I think her input is important at this point. If
Absolutely.
you wanted to kind of.
Well, Stan, yeah, what I said at our previous meeting is that the regulation is clear. I agree with Karis. It is a shall, it's not a may. The violation existed. It was confirmed through the ticket. The ticket was paid as an acknowledgement of the violation. And the regulation is clear. And in addition to the annual permit application is also an acknowledgement there with various things that the person who's applying for the permit agrees to do, and one of those is to card everybody, and that was initialed by the applicant at the time. So it's clear and it's understood that this is a requirement of the tobacco regulations for the town of Mendon.
Joyce, any comments?
No, my feeling is that he did have the paperwork. We did talk about it. He did have to pay the fine for that. And I know we talked about it the last time that it was, I'm sure it's a hardship. It is for sure. And I feel badly about it, but again, it's the same old story, like when you have a kid, the rules are the rules are the rules, and once you give them up for somebody else, then that somebody else has it happen, and they say, well, gee, I heard he had not done that, and you let him get away with it, so why can't we? It's like what your kids say to you. Well, Tommy didn't do it, so why do I have to?
It just seems like there was, man,
Yes, sir.
that this is a a pretty big change to what had been the policy, for quite a long period of time. The concept of checking ID for every purchaser of cigarettes is a big deal, and it's a big change. And for some of the store to, get the paperwork, and they're not accustomed, I don't think, to reading the fine print of a regulation. It wasn't brought to his attention, in other words, like it was in recent weeks when you went to the store with the new notices, and made it clear that this is now the policy of the town. And it's actually a town policy, it's not a statewide policy, if I understand correctly.
It's a statewide policy.
Statewide,
It is both, yeah.
okay, so, but in any event, it is a major change from the previous practice, the previous policy of what this store, and I think just about every other establishment in the town and the state was following. And, probably is a good policy, but it's just something that was such a big difference than what was going on. And now, checking the box of an application, and I think it just got by him, and he didn't intend to violate this. It didn't intend to, try to get around the law or anything like that. It just was, and evidently there was no grace period or anything like that, that it went from December 31st, and, obviously sent out the notice and everything, it was on the permit, but December 31st and January 1st, it's a brand new ballgame, It wasn't like we're gonna break this in over 6 months and make sure, everybody's aware of it, things like that. So, if the board has any discretion, that's what I'm asking for, to come up with some other penalty or some other way to avoid the suspension of the 7-day suspension.
Jack?
Colleen, can you mention how many stores you also visited for the same tobacco, selling tobacco to
Every store.
every store? And that is 8 stores, including DD Mart.
Mhm.
And how many people, or how many stores failed that besides DD Mart?
One,
So the rest of them,
2 did, one got, verbal, as I've done with all of the vendors. And then the, other store was, they already received the verbal, they received $100 fine.
so 4 other stores did comply with checking
yeah,
ID all. Okay.
It was automatic.
I do just want to point out that when Colleen did the citation on March 26th, I went to DD Mart 2 weeks later because I am a smoker. Same violation occurred 2 weeks after the fact of the violation. So
Okay.
he knew of the violation on March 26th. Nothing was done within those 2 weeks. I went in to purchase my own tobacco, and I was not checking my ID.
See, it's after my meeting here,
Before you being here.
before
Right.
the event. Okay, because it's the same sequence.
Well, but
Because we are not-
it was after you'd been served the actual violation and been made aware.
Because when I came here, the day after I went abroad, and I came to him, and he assured me, I have his email, he said, board is very empathetic with me, so when I come back, we'll figure out for you. So my understanding was there, I will be able to convince you. So I paid the plenty because of the good faith. I said, okay, I should pay something to realize that violation, turn on. Otherwise, if I know that I'm going to do this, I probably wait. But that is right. But after one day, I went there. Till today, they know that the FDA, Federal Drug Authority, sent us sometime, they sent me 1 year ago, the computerized sign which show the date and everything, and then FDA. So we have to place over there, if you go there, you see on my right side, it's every day is the date change. Every day the sun change, day change, everything change because they put chip inside. So we follow this one. So until unless, because you remember your mind talking to you?
Yep.
She told me, then I explained to this is what we know that. I'm not aware of this. She said, this is between you and me. Let me find out, then I will call you. So that was my understanding. She gonna call me before happening anything. But what happened after 2 days, we receive a letter from you. So I was thinking that she might go to you guys and then find out what is my position. That exactly I talked to her. I explained to her that we are not aware of this new law. We are following the FDA law and state law. Between 30s, we never let them go. We always call. I'm honest to you. That's why I paid, I came. So I never changed things. So I thought she might be telling you this what's happening and then we come up. So I don't know that what happened later because I was not here. So when I came here, after I discussed with you, I went there and I fixed everything.
All right, so good. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
I just have a question about the other establishments that were visited. And that, there were 4, including my client, that did not check ID.
No, there were only 2,
2 additional.
2 additional
So
in addition to.
three altogether.
Yep,
And then out of those 2, did you say that one of them got a warning or two got a warning?
no, one got a fine and the other one got a warning.
And the warning, they didn't get a violation?
No, they got a verbal warning, just like your client enjoyed a verbal warning the first time I went in and the humidor did not have a lock on it.
But the law was there.
But didn't that count as a violation?
The second time it did. There were 2 times that the humidor wasn't locked.
So, but with the other, there was at least one establishment that didn't check ID and they received a warning.
They received a warning, yes, and then another establishment received a fine of $100 that was paid.
Okay.
And what will happen with that establishment, if within a certain period of time, there is a second violation, unfortunately, that owner is gonna find themselves in the same hot seat that you're in. Because there's gonna be a $250 fine, and it's gonna be a 7-day suspension.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the regulation is written. And unfortunately, that's where we are today. We waited to talk to your client until he returned from being out of the country. That was fine. We have no problem doing that. We met with him when it was convenient for him. We explained everything. He took ownership for the violation. We set a date for the 7-day suspension. The store owner, your client, asked if we could reschedule that 7-day suspension. We rescheduled the 7-day suspension to make it more convenient for him. And now we're here today with your representation. But this is where we're at. I appreciate the fact that the store owner invested in that technology. It's good for everybody. But it's almost like there's no way for us to reverse where we're at today. It's violation number 2 in a 36 month period.
Yeah.
So I don't see any way of not enforcing the regulation at this time. My opinion. I have 2 other board members. The health inspector, she's the one that we're separate, but together.
Right.
She's the enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, she's the expert in the field.
Understood.
Yeah, I would have to concur, and I would not be inclined to change my view that the suspension should stand. So it's unfortunate. We don't like to penalize or do unjust harm to a business owner, but you know, we're pretty serious about the regulations that we put forth, and we hope the folks that are doing business in the community, read these regulations or aware of these regulations. We're always open and around for any kind of questions they might have, any concerns. The fact that our health agent does go about doing it the way that she does it, very fair, and very straightforward, and starting out giving simply just a verbal warning. That should really stop the wheels turning inside the business owner's head. Say, wait a minute, I gotta take a look at how things are going on, and, you went to an actual first written violation and to a second written violation, so it's important to us that these things are followed.
And, we are in a position that it is our job to enforce, unfortunately. And we are on screen and it's viewed from, anybody can zoom in and view it and say, well, you know what, they let Joe Blow not pay his fine. Why do I have to pay a fine? And unfortunately, that it's sad but true. You do have to follow up on what your laws are, and you can't just say, well, we had a nice discussion last time, and he was willing to do 7 days, he said, and could he do it this time? And we agreed, yes.
He want only 2 days. When I came Wednesday, he want suspension start from Sunday. I was shocked. So I need some time to think about.
Correct.
Why you are so hurry to give me a punishment? So I just want to see somebody to get an opinion. Otherwise, there is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You can do whatever is the law. So I still have time to think about it. So I go home, I check instrument, what I'm supposed to do. So I recalculate everything. I have no choice to find somebody to give me a genuine help. And this is sort of help. This is not something we are fighting for something. So, but it is, even if the state gives something, they give you 1 month or 2 months. So, okay, this is the law, so you can have ample time. If you want to seek legal help, you can go and have legal help. And then it's a legal help. So it's just like the way I did it. Because I was shocked. I was coming with this, I can show you the email from Mr. Jack. So I was very hopeful that we will sort out something about the suspension, because they understand my position, they are very empathetic with my situation, and hopefully when we come down, we will see. So I have no idea that this is going to be happening with me. So I was shocked. So when I was shocked, I said, okay, let me talk to somebody and see what can we do. So maybe he can present, I can't present myself better than he can present. This is the only thing that I bring him. He might help me to present, and then we'll see that what will happen.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I haven't been on the board forever. I've been on the board for a long time, but I haven't maybe been on the board as long as you've owned the convenience store. Has the town or the state ever suspended your tobacco license?
No,
You've never had your right to sell tobacco
only one time
suspended?
for the invoice only. Not tobacco, yes, tobacco and vape, one time.
One time. And how long ago was that?
It is 7 days only.
It was 7 days?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been through this process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because they say that they can't see invoices over 6 months. So they issue me for 1 month, and then I contest, and then they brought to 7 days.
Okay, and was that the town or the state?
So state.
That was the state, okay. You've been down this road before then?
But that's only vape and tobacco, not cigarette. If you look at your suspensions, it's gonna vape everything.
I don't see an opportunity for us to back up from where we're at, unfortunately, and our legal counsel, is verifying the legal structure of the regulation. I wish there was, something we could do, but this is where we're at today. We've tried to be as accommodating as we possibly could. And as Colleen pointed out, when something occurs in one situation, she goes out and makes sure everybody is aware. Okay? So we work very hard to treat everyone the same way. When we agreed and it was suggested that we supply your client with additional signage, we didn't do it just for your client. We did it for everyone because it wouldn't be right for us not to. So we tried to enforce the regulations as evenly as possible. And again, after the violation, that's why Colleen went out and checked the other tobacco vendors to make sure that everybody understood that she's paying attention.
And now this is a proof that two establishments, they don't know even that this law. That's what you told us. The two establishment didn't follow the law. Which you fine, and which you give them warning.
Right,
This means they are not aware of this law too.
Well, it doesn't mean they're not aware of the law. It
Right.
means they
Oh,
weren't
I
enforcing it.
got it.
right.
And like I said,
But
if they're in violation again, they're gonna find, one of the stores is gonna find themselves
But
in
look
the
at-
same
I'm
place
here.
you are.
I'm here from 2009. 2009. It's like big, very huge number of years back on me. Okay, it's up to you.
I mean, I've been listening. But I think that, we're just here to try to demonstrate that he's, put the steps into effect to stop this from happening, and it was an inadvertent violation based on his lack of knowledge.
Can I just make a
Yes,
brief comment? The remedial steps are important because the penalties continue to increase for the additional, if there are additional violations down the road. So the next level, I just want to note, is a $500 fine and a 30-day ban. And so you definitely don't want to go there. But these regulations are strict liability. Intent is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You have to comply with the regulations, whether you mean to or don't mean to, you must comply. And in the same way, the board has mandatory language with respect to the imposition of the suspension. It says shall. So, and with a signed, ticket and a confession that the offense occurred, I just don't think that there's any room for the board to do anything other than enforce its own regulations.
well, the fact that he paid the ticket was just a demonstration of good faith. He just did it to try to be in compliance. And it can also be looked at as an admission, but
We appreciate everything and we appreciate the conversation. I just don't see anywhere to go from where we are right now. Again, we offered additional signage. We offered to do more training. Other than that, the only other thing we can do is we're obligated to enforce the regulation. I wish we weren't here, but that's where we're at. And, there's no turning back.
well, thank you for letting us come in.
No, we appreciate it.
Glad you came, and now was to your point about the opportunity to seek counsel, I think.
No, I'm
That's
still
perfectly-
with you for anything, my cooperation, I'm always with you guys.
Well, it's perfectly proper for you to do that. I don't want you to think we're thinking that, you were doing something that you shouldn't be. Everyone has the right to do exactly what you've done, so.
Oh, yes, this is not something I take
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
I'm really very respectful to you guys and to town, because the town city or state is my mother, as far as business is concerned. Because that's what I learned from the state. Because their attorney told me, we are here for you. So, but that's okay. We'll see that what we can do next time. What we have to, we have to.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Before we leave, do you want to set a new date for the suspension?
Absolutely.
How much lead time do you want to give?
It's up to you.
Well,
Karis,
Yes.
any idea about the suspension timeframe?
What was the last one that you agreed to? May 5th, starting on a Sunday?
Yes.
So this Sunday is the
The 12th.
12th.
Oh, yeah.
I would say either this Sunday or, I think that's reasonable, or next Sunday if that's not enough time to be prepared.
That would be Sunday, May 19th.
we would ask for the 19th, please.
19th?
Yes.
Mother's Day.
From Wednesdays this Sunday.
Yeah,
Thank you for.
yeah, good thing.
Might have been in trouble.
All right, thank you, Karis.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Will we have Karis?
Oh, and Karis, I'm sure not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Good night, thank you.
I asked when we had her, she had an update for the access agreement.
We were just talking about that today.
Yeah.
I think you sent her an email. about
I
it.
did. Yeah, that's on the old business. Mr. Chairman, if I may, we do have representatives that would like to talk about 4C.
Absolutely. Folks, please join us.
Thank you for letting us sit in on your meeting.
No, absolutely. I'm Alan, Tom, Joyce, Colleen, and Jack.
Nice to meet you. And I know Jack.
Yes.
And you folks are?
I'm Renee Adams, 38 Colonial Drive.
And I'm Tina Snyder, 40
All right.
Okay, so would you like us to start or do you?
Well, you were here to.
Sure. So, we have the pleasure of living across the street from the Eversource, line.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, within the last year, people have started dumping a lot of garbage over there. Specifically mattresses, couches. I know that Jack's had, was it the highway department go down? and pick
Highway
it up?
department picked up a couple mattresses, yes.
And the second they pick it up, another one gets dropped off. It's really ugly. It devalues our neighborhood. It's, I don't think it's the people from Mendon that are doing it. I really think it's the people that are Blackstone, Woonsocket. They know that it's a dumping zone. I've got some pictures here. Now, I took these on April 4th. I think I came in and spoke with you on election day. But this mattress had been there since before Christmas. And I think all of us were just assuming that it was gonna get picked up. Never got picked up. So I'd like to just pass these around. These are photos from April 4th. And then I went over this morning before work. Now a mattress and box spring, sofa is still there. And here we have some mangled gates. There's absolutely no way these are operational. They can't even close them. And even if they did, I don't think it's gonna deter anybody from just throwing the mattress over top. They're really low. And this is just more garbage. Somebody just threw a shoe in there. It really is becoming a dumping
Well,
zone.
and the problem too, I think, is the longer the mattress stays there and the people drive by, it gives them ideas like, oh, hey, there's a great place. I mean,
So, can
Yes,
I?
please do.
I was put on the committee of one
Okay,
to try to get this absorbed. So I did go down there myself and walk and look and see, so I wanted to be able to not just be spouting something that.
Sure.
So I went down to confirm, and you're right. So every day for 9 days, I called their number. I got an answer that said, this is, and now, because I have gray hair, I can't remember immediately what the guy's name was. This is, so we'll say Tom James. And I'll leave your number and I'll get back to you.
Now, when you say, out of curiosity, their number.
I beg your pardon?
When you said their number, who's they?
That-
What, Eversource?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I called in the morning, and I called in the afternoon. Next day, called in the morning, called in the afternoon. Did it every day, every single day I called, for 9 days, I think. So then, finally I said to Jack, look, we've got to send them a message, a cease and desist kind of thing, and blah, 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 that they, when I left the message, I said, you've got people dropping off trash, you don't have a gate that's secure, you don't have cameras. We feel like you should have both of those things there, because it's, and you're not taking care of it. We had to take care of the one mattress that cost us $150. So, I went through that whole thing, but I'm talking to nobody, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then the day that I said to him,
Send the certified letter.
send the certified letter, a person called me back, and it wasn't the guy that I was talking to, it was another person, and I explained to him what exactly was happening, and he said, he would get back, and I said, but we have sent you a letter, so far that, we have addressed it. They haven't got back to us, because that was like, what day was it?
I sent the certified letter on April 29th.
Yeah, so, hopefully that's going to make them respond. Like I tend to be a little bit of a Pollyanna, but I'm hoping that they'll go look at it, see what's there, note that their gate needs to be more secure, that it's not a public way. But,
Yeah, they never close it. There are people there all the time.
right,
I don't know if they're hunting or what. I don't know if they have
Cars
permission to do
parked
it,
there.
right.
but, they never lock their gates.
Right, well, that's what, when I spoke to the guy, I said, this is what you need to do, you need to put a camera, you need to put cameras there, you need to put, lock the gate, you need to lock the gate, and you need to get rid of the stuff that's there now, so, again, hopefully, the guy called me before Jack sent the thing out, so, and I did explain to him, so he did say that they would pay attention to it, but we'll have to see what happens with the letter, so we did do due diligence at this point, other than sitting there waiting for somebody to come and dump something and say, all right, get out of here, what are you doing, take the stuff, and, but, we want the company to do it. It's their land, it's their space, it's their job.
Correct. And I agree with you. Thank you for your help so far. I know Eversource is a large company and it's difficult to find a point person, but there's gotta be somebody higher up in the food chain that can speak us along, maybe our state rep, maybe our congressman. I wanna know what you have planned. Do you find them? Do we have regulations when people are not taking care of the property?
That's why we sent them the certified letter
Okay.
that says, like, this is what you have to do, you can't, sort of thing, so.
Okay, so how much of those fines are they daily fines when they don't respond?
I don't know that, Victoria, so.
In the meantime, I will say thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for the high quality.
Oh, yes.
I like that, yeah.
The evidence, yeah.
You're not the only ones that have complained. There was a gentleman who's a member of our finance committee who lives on King Philip, who knows me personally. And he had made a complaint to me, one evening at a meeting. I don't know if we were in a budget meeting, but he grabbed me on the way out. And, Jack and the highway department went right down and they got the mattress out of there so fast that when I went to check it out, it was gone. So we're making an attempt, but it's my understanding that Eversource probably has, I'll call it a real estate division, because this is an easement. They may not actually own the ground, but they have the rights to the easement. And again, I'm not an expert in this.
Is it the town's easement?
Well, it would be their easement because they would have ownership of it. What I'm saying is they may not actually own all the ground that you'd stand on. But with that ownership of the easement, I'm sure, and we probably have to ask a real estate attorney, there are some responsibilities, which is really your point.
And my point, when I spoke to them, you know, hey, come on, get your stuff out of here.
I do like your suggestion that maybe a state rep could help us out. Brian Murray from Milford has been excellent. And he participates in a lot of the activities that we do in the town of Mendon. He's very visible. So I'm gonna suggest to Jack right now to send an email to his office and let him know that we're not getting timely response to our phone calls and messages. And send him a copy of the letter that you sent, the certified letter that you sent, and see if it's possible that he may know someone or know how to locate someone that we can get some action from. I was told a long time ago from an attorney that owns some property in Mendon that trash breeds trash. Again, to your point. So if it gets cleaned up and it gets monitored, hopefully we can resolve this. But again, you're not the only residents in town that are noticing what's going on down there. Joyce, made the best attempt that she could, and you would hope in an ideal world that someone would listen to their messages and at least inquire as to what's going on. Our health agent calling.
The rep tomorrow, actually, and I'll ask if they have any contact information for us too.
Colleen is an expert in this area. She's our health agent, so she handles our convenience stores, our restaurants. It helps us a lot with our dumpster regulations and things like that. So she's the enforcer. We're the people in the middle.
Start finding them
We will
daily.
Well, we don't want this to go on any longer. And again, to Joyce's point, it not only needs to be cleaned up, but it needs to be monitored so it doesn't become a problem again. And again, someone who has an easement, who has ownership of the easement, has also the responsibilities to take care of that easement. But I'm not a real estate attorney to know the ins and outs of all.
Wouldn't the assessor's office have that information on who owns the easement?
It's very possible.
Field card, you can tell that. Did we find out who owns that property? Yeah.
From the property card. It says Boston Edison, care of NSTAR, which is now owned by Eversource.
So they do own it. All right, so then.
And it goes to the property tax department out in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, so they actually own the turf.
Yep.
Current
And the
owner.
rights.
Current owner.
Okay, well, that's good. That's better than only one half of that equation.
Okay.
I make a suggestion.
Yes, please.
Just given that it's Eversource and the position they have in the town, I'm just wondering that we thought to engage the select board Because I would imagine the select board over time has had engagement with Eversource.
And I actually do think that's a great idea, if you could work together with the select board to get this.
Because they may have
Situation.
contacts that are more, sort of higher up the chain. Because of their involvement in what they, Eversource has brought to the town, what they've agreed to bring to the town. And maybe that's a resource we could tap.
Talk them all.
I would think that Eversource would want to keep a good relationship with the town,
Oh, sure.
you know?
I mean, at minimum, I think.
However, you know, just, I mean, I tend to be again a Pollyanna here, so just so you know, you're dealing with, you know, unless somebody reports it to them, how do they know? I mean, unless they're doing inspections on their, every day or something like that.
Well, they are in there though,
Oh, I.
and
yeah,
their field workers are not reporting it to anybody,
Right,
because they probably don't want to deal with it, because then it becomes the field worker's problem.
right.
They do pack in there. I go by it every single day.
The day, well, the day that I went to look, there was nobody there, so I'm, you know, again, I always like try to take the high road, which is always, makes me have a really good accident then, you know, when I do that, so. You
We'll
think I'd learn.
definitely utilize our resources
Okay.
and see what we can come up with, and maybe to have them put a larger gate there. I think that would really be a deterrent from, you know, from anyone backing in there. That, this gate here, obviously, I mean, they would still back up and huck it over the gate. We don't-
Exactly.
But if maybe like a chain link, you know, a taller gate, it would be a little bit more difficult.
And I think the camera,
I would agree to that, and
Right.
signage that says, you know,
Yeah.
no video surveillance or
Right.
something like that, maybe it will deter them.
correct,
And if not, hopefully you'd be able to get somebody's license plate.
Yes,
right.
How long have you folks lived down in that neighborhood?
I'm about 24 years.
All right, and how long do you think this has been going on?
It just started
Yeah.
last year,
yeah,
All right.
yeah, it was always clean.
but they also started charging people to dispose their mattresses.
Right.
I think that goes hand in
That
hand.
is true,
Right.
that, you're absolutely right,
Mhm.
you know, yeah.
Does Jack have your contact information?
I am nervous.
He has my phone.
Okay.
Do you have my email as well?
No.
Okay.
You wanna email me?
Yeah, I'll email you. Okay, that's better. Tina, do you want to give your information so you can stay in the loop?
Oh, sure, so like,
Yeah, I'll let you break it down.
Do we have those?
Yeah, you can keep them,
Oh.
absolutely.
No, we should,
You've got a great picture.
I mean, we love our town, we just want to keep it nice.
No, absolutely.
So do we. I mean,
Absolutely,
we're,
that's our goal.
that's why we're here, by
Yes.
the way, just
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know,
I can tell.
we're not just here,
Mhm.
we're here to see that it gets done.
No, I know you're talking to Jack, I can hear his frustration
Right,
with it as well.
Well, if you caught any of the previous conversation with regard to the topic, there's something we'd like to make sure happened correctly in the town.
Yeah, I don't like being ignored. My email address.
Great, thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Really
it.
appreciate your time.
So, if possible, when Jack does send out email correspondence, he'll try to CC
That'd be
you
great.
on that so that you can actually see the process and see what's going on.
Mhm.
I don't see any reason why, you know, you can't be kept up to the minute.
Oh, that's great.
And if,
And I'd really be curious, when you have the time, if you could, email me what the fines are, what the town has for fines. I'm just curious. How that works.
Okay.
But, no, I do appreciate your time.
oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming forward.
I know, at least it's not raining.
oh, is it already raining?
No, but it was raining all day.
Take care, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
No problem, thank you.
Should get that gate fixed.
Gate is like works.
It's really useless.
Yeah, and it, you know, it's, I feel bad that you weren't getting any kind of a response.
Nothing.
That is
I mean,
just-
I was calling, and I was, you know, in the first 2 days, I was like, you know, I see, and then I started getting a little pissy, I mean,
All right.
It's okay, a little bit of vigor,
Yeah.
not a bad thing.
and, you know, so, but I was calling twice a day. But then, just when I got done with calling, I said to Jack, you know, we need to send a certified letter. And, didn't the guy call me back, but it wasn't that guy, it was somebody else, and unfortunately, I was not in my place, because I gave them my number, my phone, my mobile, so I wasn't in a place where I had something that I could write everything down, you know, I was like if I were at home, I could.
Did they call from a phone that showed up on your caller ID?
Yeah, probably.
Right, because then we would
I think it
have.
was the same number, it was the same
Oh,
number.
it was,
that-
okay,
yeah.
so different person.
Different
but the
person, yeah,
same
same
number,
number,
okay.
yeah, yeah, that's why I answered,
didn't know
because
if
I
we managed
recognized
to
that
capture
number
somebody's
because I
cell
was
phone.
so no, it was the same
Inadvertently.
thing, no, it was the same number. Yeah.
Okay, well,
And he was very nice when he
Yeah.
was speaking to me, you know, and he said, you know, we'll take care of it.
all right,
Kind of
well,
like the ladies were indicating too, that there are Eversource trucks that are there.
All the time.
the other
I see
day.
them all the time.
Yeah.
I go back and forth.
What I should have thought to ask was, are the guys reporting any of this into their offices?
No, because that's too much work.
well, and even if they are, let's be optimistic, and let's say that they are reporting it, right, Pollyanna?
Right, yeah, no,
Nothing's being done about it.
Well, what I'm getting at is it's just that it's another avenue of information coming back to Eversource
right,
that they're,
hey, guys, yeah, we
the
got all this
applicants,
crap
they're
over
kind of
there,
ignoring it.
yeah.
I'm just curious if it's.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
could do that, we could someday just stop and.
Oh, I
stick
see.
the truck there.
I'm gonna be talking with someone tomorrow who I'm positive will give me a phone number for someone higher up in the food chain.
Yeah, and,
Right,
you know,
And then,
this has been going on for
Yep.
the better part of a year. It's overdue that it gets corrected.
right,
And they're a good company, they're a responsible company, and we're gonna be,
I'm sure they wanna be a good neighbor
Yeah.
too. You know,
so it's just a matter of getting it in front of the right set of eyes.
yeah, I'm sure
To
I'll
get
get
some
that
action.
phone number in that
Okay.
meeting tomorrow.
and her point is well taken, you know, it started when nobody was taking mattresses and stuff.
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, the Board of Health got a bill for $150, right, Jen?
Right, and which we shouldn't have, they should be paying that, we should be giving them that to pay.
What was the bill, 150 for?
To get
Mattress,
mattress,
that John discounts.
mattress number one.
Get all of you to talk at once again. We got 2 years. Sorry,
Sorry.
who wants to go?
When I first heard about it, there was one mattress at that entrance, and I asked John to pick it up and dispose of it into the dumpster, and it's $150 from DLR.
Yeah, it's nothing cheap about getting rid of a mattress.
But as soon as that one was removed, by the pictures, another mattress and a box spring now showed up.
That family showed up.
But unfortunately, these people aren't aware, or if they're ignoring the fact that there are companies like the Green Team
Mhm.
that for a very reasonable price, you can get rid of a mattress or box spring or both
Mhm.
properly.
Mhm.
And it's even cheaper if you come to one of our events.
Mhm.
So
So,
then you're asking them to hold on to
hey,
things
listen,
for a period of time.
you know,
No, I mean.
try to do the right thing. Sometimes it's not as convenient.
God bless you.
Is that a sneeze?
That's my deal.
Yeah.
You're sometimes like it was 16.
And do we have a fine schedule for that kind of dumping?
If we don't have it in our regulations, that it is in the CMI regulation, but you wouldn't be able to use the non-criminal location. And I think that it's probably the $50 with a maximum of 100. But if we do not have it in our regulation, it may be something that we should look into adopting.
What type of regulation?
Yeah,
It would be, you know, yeah, it would be,
Would that be like attached to the dumpster regulations?
No, it would probably be a trash regulation. You know, within that trash regulations now, we could amend them and add in, provisions for illegal dumping and the fine schedule for it. You know, like, we have cameras and, people who do dump illegally throughout the town in certain favorite spots.
Yeah.
And it's been very effective. Cause you get the license plate, give it to the police
Jane
chief,
Van Will, yeah.
police chief tells you who the person is.
Well, the cameras on the E.L. Harvey trucks have helped certain situations as well, when we've had differences of opinion with
Very
whether
much.
trash is gonna pick up or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So it's nice to have that visual.
Yeah, but if you get the license plate
Right.
and then you send the letter, they pay the fine.
Mhm.
But in order to use the non-criminal citation process, we would have to adopt our own regulation. We cannot use the non-criminal citation process with state or with our own bylaws, we can, but with state regulations on Mass General Law, we can.
Right.
So maybe something we should look into,
yeah, I mean,
just to have some teeth.
well, and to be able to answer future people's questions. Sometimes it takes a first situation,
Right,
right, to prepare you for what, if
Yep.
might happen. I want to back up for a second. DB man, what was the dates we agreed to, the 19th?
19th,
That's a Sunday,
that's a
Yeah.
Sunday.
for 7 days, okay, thank you. Anything else on this issue?
Not for me.
All right, we've got an action plan.
Mhm.
All right. So let's back up to 147 Hartford Avenue East, tobacco permit discussion.
All right, so on April 22nd, I received a tobacco permit for 147 Hartford Avenue East LLC. In review of our current tobacco regulations that we have drafted and approved in December of 2023, take effect January 1st, 2024, it states that no tobacco permit can be within 1,000 feet of another store of a tobacco permit. You and I spoke about this, I believe last week, and you wanted to know when they applied for their permit of the store. And this was applied for in July 2023 and approved by the planning board and building department for the convenience store at 147 Hartford Avenue East. So now the discussion is whether to approve the new tobacco permit in regard to the timeline of the gas station project approval with the new adoption of the new tobacco regs, amend the current regulations to allow a shorter distance between the property, or remove the specific regulation altogether.
Okay. My take. We adopted that, because we were trying to make our regulations mirror our neighboring towns, especially our members of the collaborative, so that it's a lot easier for enforcement if we all have the same regulations. So I'm against taking that out. That's counterproductive in my opinion. I don't want to amend it either, because again, it kind of goes against what we were trying to do with mirroring our neighboring towns, so that we're all on the same page. So in that situation, I go back to the date that they originally applied for the convenience store. And that was before we put that regulation into effect. So in my opinion, that regulation wasn't in effect, and I would, allow the sale of tobacco for this convenience store. I'm making the assumption that when they applied for this, that was their intent. Folks?
Well, I would tend to agree. I kind of would follow what I would call the grandfather rule. No regulations get changed and modified and amended. I don't say often, but happens on occasions. And so I think it'd be unfair to penalize someone who did something predated to the regulation. This sounds like this is a case where at the time they applied for that permit, this regulation specific aspect was not in place with the tobacco in our regulations. So I think it would be unjust to penalize them because of that. Just as if anything new came along in any other regulation, anything else pre-existed that regulation, it wouldn't be fair to have now everybody change and conform to something new.
Excuse me, is this the, new, big thing with the gas station and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's right.
Right across from Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
right on the town line,
right.
because as Jack pointed out, on the corner of the intersection, there's another small convenience store.
Sunny Farms.
Right.
And there's the one in
And the other
Oakdale.
That's
Yeah.
often,
And those are within 1,000 feet, but to your point, they were pre-existing long before that particular clause in the regulation was formed.
Right.
So Joyce, Colleen,
I would caution the board, because you're assuming that the convenience store was going to apply for a tobacco permit that they did not apply for until after you adopted your regulations. So for the board's education and to make sure that you're on solid ground, I would consult with Harris before you took any type of vote.
okay, I did use that word,
What?
that I was assuming that when they originally applied, they had the intent
Right.
to sell tobacco. In my limited experience, convenience stores and tobacco go together.
But they didn't apply. It was for a convenience store. You can assume that they were also gonna apply for tobacco. Maybe they were gonna be one of those stores that doesn't sell cigarettes. You know, the fact that the tobacco permit application came in after January
April,
2024,
yeah.
I would just check, I would double check with Karis.
Okay.
I'm just throwing caution to
Let's
the
be
board,
safe
that's all.
and sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, why do you make me think?
Oh, hey,
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
I just kind of was going by the, everything along the same lines that I'm automatically thinking they're gonna sell tobacco.
Right, you can't assume, and or even, imply their intent.
You know what you do, you assume.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good idea. I mean, I understand what the
Yeah.
board's trying to achieve, and yes, there is the pre-existing non-conforming, nature of, especially in a small town. However, there was not a tobacco permit application on file with the board prior to January 2024.
And actually, it was in
Yeah.
April by the time, right?
Right.
Big advantage when your health agent comes to all your meetings.
No, it's great to have another set of.
Yeah.
I've been thinking in terms of just not wanting to be unjustly
I agree,
oppressive
and I
to
could
the
be,
business.
it-
Right, which is how we try to be
So-
on a regular basis.
So I'll be on,
Yeah.
so I'll take it a step further then, I guess the question would be if this were in the regulation, when they were looking to apply for this location, would that venture have not been put there, or decided to be put there?
Well, they should have done their homework. They should have done.
No, you know what I'm saying, so if this was in place before they even put the permit in for the building to do, back in
Well,
July.
that was in, I don't know, was that,
I don't know
in
how-
place, was the.
You don't get it?
Were the rules in place?
No, this wasn't adopted until 2024.
January one, but
They applied back in 2023 for the permit
right,
for the construction,
but for construction, but with the idea of knowing
That they were making a store.
what the building was gonna be for and what was gonna be sold in the building. I'm just saying, if this existed before they pulled that construction permit, would But this have changed their mind in doing
It's hard to know.
what they were gonna do there, that's all.
Yeah, I don't know how big a profit center tobacco is. You know, for a convenience store,
Tobacco,
yeah.
huge.
Well, then-
But they're like in such close proximity to
But
other
everybody,
stores,
right,
like the
yeah.
regulars are still gonna go to the you know what I mean?
Right.
The only thing they would have going for them is cheaper gas. That would draw those regulars over to that store. And I did speak with that gentleman, I forget his name, he was the, not the applicant, I think he was the,
The foreman,
yeah, and he asked me about the tobacco regulation. And he had called in and I advised him of the clause in the tobacco regulation. He said that, he wasn't aware of that.
And when was that?
Last month, right?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't last year, that's.
No.
Okay, well,
Because they were building that.
to Colleen's point.
Yeah.
Let's present it to Karis. And we'll revisit it.
Mm.
And thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Absolutely.
Didn't think of that side of the equation.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a collective.
Absolutely, that's why we talk these things out.
Right.
As I was reviewing the particular issue at hand, there was a couple of things that came to mind about the tobacco regs in general, that I thought I'd just kind of bring up or point out. When I took a look at what we have online, we have a certain title to these regulations, and I just kind of wondered if the first thing was if the title of it was something we wanted to, that we liked. So we call it Regulation of the Amended Board of Health Restricting the Sale of Tobacco Products. I don't know if that is as good a title as say something like the Amended Board of Health Tobacco Regulations or Sale of Tobacco Regulations versus saying that it's all about restricting the sale of tobacco products. Because this isn't just about restricting.
Right. Is there a standard out there?
Most towns call them the tobacco regulations, the
Yeah.
town of, Mendon's tobacco regulations. That's just what the standard name
Because
is.
on the lead page, when you look at our website, it says tobacco regulations, but when you go to bring up the actual document, it just has a different lead type. But it's not, even from the standpoint of consistency, making it both the same.
Jack, you want to check our area towns and see what?
I don't think it matters, like, I think Tom's point, like, we just call it tobacco regulations.
I mean,
Yeah, and then eliminate that last phrase.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
how,
look around, again, this just copied whatever is said for Uxbridge, I just changed the Mendon.
Right, yeah, I didn't know if, like I said, there was a template that everybody kind of follows. So that title, the title sounds very legal, and sometimes legal language seems like it goes around to get to the point, and that's sort of what you're pointing out.
well,
It's just,
my point is the title is, I think, too restrictive for what the document actually is. It's a guideline for handling tobacco in the town, and it's not really about restricting the sale. Specifically, it's about just, in general, tobacco regulations for the sale, tobacco regulations for the sale of
Yeah,
tobacco.
it's restricting the sale of tobacco to people over 21.
Yeah, and it talks about the limitations.
Yeah, just saying that. I
It's
mean,
not the only.
that's the restriction.
Yeah, it's not the only thing about the regulation, that's why I just thought that piece of the title.
I'm not against retitling it.
No, I'm not either. I think
Like
it's
for
just-
Uxbridge, it does say regulation of the Uxbridge Board of Health restricting the sale of tobacco products on their actual hard copy. And on their link to it, it says restricting the sale of tobacco products. So I guess we can title it whatever we want.
Yeah, we can, that's up to us. I just throw it out there for.
Yeah.
for thought.
Again, I didn't know if there was some sort of a template that we follow when we put these things together. I mean, our dumpster regulations are called dumpster regulations.
Well,
They're not called,
on the website, before you get to this, it says tobacco regulations.
do we want to just call it tobacco regulations for the town amendment?
Yeah, I think that's good, because, I mean, otherwise, you know, we're not restricting it tobacco for everybody. I mean, we're restricting it for kids under 21. And we should be restricting it for everybody, but that's another story.
All right,
Okay, so do we want to just make the decision, retitle it now?
What do you like? What do people like?
Yeah, just
Keep
take
it
it up.
simple.
Yeah, keep it simple.
KSS, I'm a big fan of KS, so what do you think would be simple?
That's like the town amendment.
Regulations of the town,
There you go.
yeah. I mean,
Sold.
Sold.
vote.
Yes, I make a motion that we change the page from restricting the sale of tobacco products to just regulation of the Mendon Board of Health tobacco.
What Jackson?
That was close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The town amended tobacco regulations.
I'll I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All right,
And one other thing, just.
please.
So I know that on the copy that the public looks at, not on what we're seeing here, because this is the draft.
Yeah.
At the top, it talks about the, when they first went in, which was 2015. And then along the way, there were a couple of amendments. So what dawned on me was that I had a hard time determining, as somebody who was just looking at this, what was the quote unquote original document?
Doesn't
versus
matter.
What were the amendments? Did we
Why
think
do
so?
we care?
Well, I just wanted to give you, as to what was,
I would
what's
say,
new and what
this
wasn't.
is the new thing. It's like, you know, like what they do with cars.
Yeah. Correct.
Since you amended the tobacco, the regulation, the first ones are moot now.
Right,
You're gonna muddy the water. You stick with the current regulation.
I didn't know if you had to put like, say we added a paragraph somewhere. And it said effect as of January 1, 2024, versus anything else, of course, would have been before.
No, because when you amend them, you have to have a public hearing and then you explain what your amendments are, and then they become part of the document.
So when
Public
you,
hearings for minutes.
You should have.
I don't know.
I just go where I'm
I
told.
thought we thought once the regulation was in place, we had to do a public hearing for new regulation, but then from then on, the board had the ability to amend it at local board of health meetings, any regulation.
I think you have to, I think you do have to have it as a public.
Advertise.
Because it has to be public information, because you can't expect the public to know that the regulation has changed unless you announce it by saying.
I don't know if we did that. to be honest.
Well, I remember the first one, because it was in the upper town hall.
Oh, absolutely.
And we were told that we could expect possibly someone to come from like the convenience store collaborative.
Right, yeah, there is a coalition.
Yeah, so I forget what the organization was
Yeah.
titled.
Maybe that's just something we should ask Harrison?
Yeah, I mean,
Or is he not
and
gonna
every
contact?
every council is different, so, you know, in Blackstone, we always had to have a public hearing. Maybe council here has advised you that you can conduct the amendment during your regular meeting.
And I can't recall if we sought the advice of council, but I'm pretty sure when we did amendments to this, we didn't, once the regulation was in play, we made the amendment on our own, and we did it at a typical, regular Board of Health meeting.
Well, then maybe that's how council advised you to do it.
But, well, I don't know that we sought advice either, that's what I'm saying. So maybe we should
Get
seek
clarification.
advice from Karis on this.
I'd have to go back in the minutes.
I'm just pretty certain, is that, I kind of remember that, the voice saying, well, once your regulation was in place, from that point on, after the public hearing to do the regulation, the board would be free to make amendments to that regulation at regular BOH meetings.
Well, it's on the agenda. It's 48 hours notice. So it might not be as formal as a public hearing, but the public is given notice. And then we send out a copy of the new regulations to whoever it would affect.
But a public hearing,
It makes that's advertised, it's advertised.
It's advertised and it's a specially advertised
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
Like the planning boards,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about 30 public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done public hearings.
Mhm.
I don't think the 48-hour notice constitutes. public
Right,
hearing.
and I'm saying, without going back to the minutes,
Right.
I couldn't speak. My memory won't allow me
No, I understand.
as to.
Well, I think the point here is, we do have to do it.
Yeah.
So let's just move on. I mean, you can't go, the only thing I know in my life, real sure, you can't go backwards, so let's go forward.
You say we have to,
Yeah, public hearing,
so you're of the belief that we have to do a public hearing
right,
to any amendment to any regulation.
I think so.
Can we get validation of that?
I was told, I believe by previous council, Board of Health, they said the only public hearing the Board of Health needs to hold that has anything by. Other than that, public hearings are not needed,
Let's find out.
but it's up to us.
Okay, well, we can find out.
But that was legal counsel for the town of Mendon,
Prior to Karis.
hired Harris.
So why don't we, it sounds like there is a bit of a question. So
Yeah.
why don't we reach out to Karis,
And
present the scenario and just see. I just want to make sure that we're,
No,
I hate to have
I
anybody,
agree.
given the previous topic,
Mm-hmm.
I'd hate to have anyone be able to come back and say policy or procedure wasn't followed as required.
Yeah, for some reason, see, we didn't have tobacco regulations when we did that first public hearing.
First public hearing for tobacco regulation?
Yeah.
Oh, we absolutely did. That's how we created the regulation. We had to do a public hearing.
So when we did that first tobacco regulation that I can remember, that we lowered it to 21 and we worked with that
The
gentleman.
doctor,
Yeah,
Adam Eden?
did we have tobacco regulations prior to that?
No, that's what started the whole.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I know we need to do a public hearing when we have regulations that were non-existent. I can't say to my memory that I'm aware or that we have had public hearings to amend an existing regulation.
Right, that's fine. That's where I'm coming from. Yeah,
We'll find out.
yeah, find out.
Okay.
Find out.
I'll find out.
All right, cool.
Good, because I don't want to go back through all those minutes.
Can I ask you a question about when Jay was here about vaping? Is vaping tobacco? What is vaping? It's tobacco. So, because he was talking about his kids that were 15 years old that were riding down the bicycle. So, I was thinking about mentioning that, but then I said, I wasn't sure about what vaping is. Because that's stuff like that. No.
All right, folks. Anything else
No,
on that topic? Okay, so we will move on to vote to appoint staff to work on behalf of the Mendon BOH.
yes, so the Blackstone Valley Partnership of Public Health, as we know, Danielle has moved on to greener pastures. But there are two new staff that Blackstone Valley Public Health have hired. We have Jenna Goodwin, who is our community health worker, and also Emily Whitaker Smith, who is the new health agent for the collaborative. So as a formality, we just want to say they're health agents on behalf of the town of Mendon.
All right, so can we have, if there's no discussion on this,
Well, it's just a question. Well, go ahead.
I'd like to say, what does the community health worker do? And what is the health agent do? And we have our health agent.
I think she's a health inspector.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
not an agent. She's
Okay.
like Dan, the same
Okay.
thing. She's the same, she's stepping into Danielle's shoes.
Okay,
Yeah,
and what does Dan do?
Dan is a health inspector.
He's a health inspector
Yeah.
too, so,
He does housing and food establishments.
so we still would have him.
Mhm.
Yes,
And we would have her, and what would she do?
the same,
Is.
because they're only here, they're here.
Yeah, half, half.
Yeah, once,
Yeah,
once or every 2 weeks,
right,
you know, but they do enhance our, you know, our
Right.
services.
Yeah, they're a backup.
right,
Mhm.
right.
They,
You don't
Yeah.
know specifically.
they
Yeah.
handle an issue in crunch time or an emergency if, you know,
They pick up the
Colleen's
slack.
not available.
Yeah, they pick up the slack.
And it's another set of eyes
Mhm.
in the field
Mhm.
to help us think of things we might not have already thought of.
Right.
So, very beneficial.
And Jenna, she's a community health worker, so what she specializes in is more on the social worker spectrum. So she is trying to meet with like the police chief and the council on aging director, and also the public health nurses. She's working very closely with Trish Parent. She's working very closely with Deb Becerra. And to try and engage, and she also is going to work very closely with the schools
Good, okay, that's good, yeah.
to try and gauge the needs of each community.
Right.
She has a lot of experience, and actually really excited for her to come into the community, especially into the schools, because, you know, she can offer them the same type of assistance that Dan and Emily offer us on this side of the road.
That was one of my next questions. It's gonna be to you. How well did you know these people? What insight do you have on them? So you answered one very, very nicely there as far as,
They were all went
Interesting.
through the interview process.
Yeah.
With all of us. We all sat in on the interviews, Jack sat in on them, we all weighed in on them, all 8 towns. Or we all went through the interview process, and they bring a lot of tools to the shed.
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we appoint Jenna Gouland as the community health worker and Emily Whitaker Smith as the health agent in town.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving right along. Marchand environmental permit discussion.
So has everybody read the article from the Mass website about Marchand?
Yes.
I just want to make everybody aware of what's been going on in the Black Zone.
However,
From the tight tank letters that I sent out to the lake, a few of them have said Marchand was their person. I was working with Sarah Cashman, who's the girl in the office from January, February, March, April, May. And I said, where are your pumping records? And she's responded that she has spoken to Michael Marchand, saying that he has done no business in Mendon at all. But I have a record in February from a resident saying that he did pump the septic. There you go, there you have it. The payment of services being rendered. And I am being told that there was no services being provided.
Okay, so essentially they're in violation for not submitting pumping records.
Correct. So I also reached out to the town of Uxbridge, because that is where his wastewater treatment facility is for dumping all septage. And Uxbridge waste treatment manager has said that
I
Marchand
love that.
has not been there at all this year
Right.
and cannot be there without him getting some type of card of
Yeah,
some
it's gonna
sort.
be, what do you call it?
He said he's never gonna allow him there again. Chris Welch, right here in this last page.
A Portal Logic magnetic card to access the facility.
Which he does not have.
Doesn't have.
So again, where is he dumping what he's been collecting from Mendon?
Well, if this is accurate, we have an idea where we might be.
Which is where I remember I told you that back in the day, I said, I always felt that that was happening.
So I was bringing it to the board's attention to find out if anything, if the board wanted to bring it back in.
So let me, now, we've had a couple of conversations along this line, and specifically about this action that's gonna take place. And you were telling me something about, in order for this to take place, locals had to.
Actually, just to take a back seat and so the DEP took the helm, and the DEP is the one who contacted the AG's office.
Yeah.
Now, in order for there to be a clean path for the AG's office to pursue litigation against Mr. Marchand, the DEP also had to withdraw their order that they had on Mr. Marchand, which they did. So now the Attorney General's office has.
Which is even better.
Mhm. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts now has filed litigation against Mr. Marshall.
So does that mean that any local entity, whether it be Mendon, Uxbridge, or whatever, who has concerns about this operation operating in their town, could not or should not take any action, given what the Attorney General
Well, I don't know that, it negates, any action. I think that the board right now, one of their requirements of you granting him his septic hauling license was that he would in fact file pumping records with the board, which he has not, to Jack's point. I think that at the very least, a letter from the board should go to Mr. Marchand stating what Jack has uncovered and ask for those pumping slips.
My personal opinion, and again, I may be because this one, especially from Chris, got me a little hot on the call with regard to this whole situation. My personal view is at the moment is that his license should be revoked in the town, then,
Based upon what?
based upon he cannot confirm and based upon what he put down for information on his application. I believe this is the facility he listed as the facility that
Right,
he's
yeah.
supposed to be using for dumping.
Yeah.
And pumping records as well, not supplying what is clearly, I think on one of the documents we had, I'm gonna ask about this too. Thinking about, even if he didn't have any pumping records to report, we in the town of Mendon have a requirement every month to notify the Board of Health within 7 days of the end of the previous month's date.
Mhm.
Obviously, we haven't done that. There's actually an automatic $100 fine that goes along with that. I don't know if we ever really changed that, but just all in all, my view is he should be allowed to operate in town.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, as long as you guys have a clear path.
Do we think, does it sound like there's a basis there?
Well, I think we should draft up a letter or not, and again, not to beat Karis up, but I think that she should take a look at it
Do we,
based upon all of this too.
yeah, wow. I think we have, just cause to suspend his license in the town of Mendon based on the pumping records.
I don't, well, I
And-
use the term revoke. I don't want to suspend. I want, my personal view is we revoke.
Well, based on what
But
Colleen is saying, I would not want to cloud the situation that's way beyond the town of Mendon.
yeah,
So that's why I'm using the word suspend.
Yep.
Based on the pumping records and based on the ability to give us proof of where he's dumping the material. That would be the two things that I would be comfortable citing. And the fact that with that canceled check, we know he's, I mean, that's evidence that he's pumping.
Right.
We don't know where he's dumping it, and he's not providing the pumping record. So that's like the evidence to support those two claims. And again, to take action, but not to cloud what the Attorney General is doing.
That wouldn't cloud it, and I think that the board in its path, and that's why I asked based upon what, so that we have a clear path. The fact is that he did name the Uxbridge facility on his application, correct? as
Right.
where he was going to bring
Right,
this, what he was pumping. So the fact that he doesn't have the necessary tools to be able to dispose of
here's
the.
his
Right.
letter right here saying, and nor is he ever going to let him be there.
Right.
So,
So that, just so that it's clear and that we, when we maybe have Karis take a look at it, just so that we don't set ourselves up.
We don't want to be what I'll use, which I love this phrase, we don't want to be arbitrary and capricious.
And I do want to point out underneath where he's at the waste treatment plant in Uxbridge, it does say for certification, I certify that the information I provided above is true and accurate. I recognize that it is a violation of this permit to dispose of septic anywhere other than the identified disposal location or other approved or boarded in writing as an amendment to this permit.
As signed 11/27.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that could pass.
And then kind of just watch and see what happens here.
hopefully the DEP
So-
will keep us in contact because, or it's the Attorney General now,
Right,
because.
yeah, even the DEP,
Yeah,
through their,
Right.
Right.
so that the AG's office had a clear path.
Yeah, no, I can picture how that should work. So Tom, your suggestion is to draft it and run it by Karis before we send it?
Well, I think, yeah, no, actually, give credit to Colleen for making a very good suggestion. I would concur that we should do that. They
Okay.
talk me down off the ledge. Just some things,
We'll follow the process.
we'll follow the process. Some things get me
Under the
out under the collar. This is one of them.
Understandable.
I think this is mine.
We've gone to extreme extent, this board,
Right, to
and
be
other
kind to
members
them, right.
out of this board prior, to give an extended hand of support based on assurances, all the while knowing the historical data with this need. And we went again,
Yep,
so I
I
just,
agree.
again, I just get, why we folks?
Do we,
Yeah.
after Karis reviews it and approves it, do we also send it to who we think is still his attorney?
I would assume so, because every time I get a response from Sarah Cashman, he was included in the email.
Okay.
Just
Just,
makes
As a
sense.
courtesy,
Yeah,
I would until
well,
notified
no,
otherwise.
I think, his attorney should know if he doesn't already know what his client is up to.
Yep.
I know his, onus is to his client, but,
Train should have left the station.
anything else on this topic?
None from me.
Not for me.
Nope, I'm good at the moment.
All right, let's move along. Old business. Mendon landfill. I won't use the word old again.
I did speak with Karis last week because of the town meeting in Mendon. She wasn't able to get to it yet. She's still working on the finalization, so we should have it by next week.
Great.
Okay,
Yeah, cool.
so that's our access agreement.
Correct.
Right.
We had that slight budget cut in the monies that we thought we should allot to do work down there, work that we've been told that we need to do, catch basins, sinkholes. I know it's a busy time, but are we on the slate somewhere with the highway department?
All right, so this is my 1 DOH update. I spoke to John Dudley from the Highway Department regarding the storm drain of the landfill. He's sympathetic on his plate, including the Providence Street Bridge project. We're looking at the end of summer, beginning of fall of 2024 for that repair. If we want it sooner, he can send us a few names and go out for bid.
Okay, so that would address the storm
Storm drain.
and You said late summer?
Late summer, yes, this year.
All right, so that's not terrible.
No, it's workable.
You know, and, so that would kind of be like the second thing on that list, right? We took care of the first thing, which was the wellhead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The second thing would be the storm drain. And then we'd have to approach the sinkholes.
Mhm.
Does everyone feel comfortable with that timeframe?
Well, fine, I understand it's, you know,
Well, and I mean,
I know what highway's got going on.
yeah, well, that's why I, you know, knowing all the things that are going on,
I don't want to unnecessarily get into some crazy expenditures here to,
Exactly, for
Yeah.
some private company, yeah.
but,
well, especially where that was the item that got slashed. Not that there wasn't other funds available, hopefully, to cover it.
Yeah.
But if John is able to take care of this.
Yeah.
That still gives us an opportunity before winter to try to get the sinkholes,
Mhm.
whether the highway department does it or we have to hire someone from the outside. Maybe we could get that done before the snow flies.
I'm sure.
And if we have a sort of a commitment from the highway department, if we're questioned, we have that as, yep, this is when it's scheduled for, approximately, highway department's gonna take care of it. That I'm, with the working relationship you have, I think that should suffice.
Oh, yeah, as long as the DEP, sees that we, have forward progress, they'll continue to work with us.
All right, so take John up on that.
Yep.
And as we get closer, he can, give us a better timeframe. Not that we're gonna hold him to it, but just so that we don't get backed up.
right, and, we never know what could happen. It could
Right,
be
he
a
could have
surprise or two,
Oh, yeah.
so.
No, I
They could have a
appreciate
break in
the efforts.
action, and they could be able to like fit it in,
I mean, if we felt that the repairs were more detrimental in nature than they are, maybe we had a different conversation, but I'd say that's not the case.
No, I think we've sort of taken them in order. I mean, the testing has to take place, so that well got cleared.
It's good to go.
I would say the storm drain is more important than the sinkholes, so we're going through them in order of importance to move forward, so I think we're doing we're doing a reasonably good job.
I'd be happy to jump on an excavator.
There you go.
Me too.
All right,
We
so.
got a multi-talented group here.
We
We are rocking.
You notice I'm not saying it. Okay.
We know that.
So we move to the next item, contract renewal for the shared services grant.
Select board has it, so it'll probably be approved by the next meeting.
All right, so Mike's supposed to sign that?
Yes,
And then I'll sign it?
correct.
And we'll get that done?
Yep.
All right.
I thought it was gonna be this meeting with the select board, but they're in executive session tonight.
Is there any need for any kind of review at our level, or is it just a
Just a repeat,
repeat?
so, because it's only 3 years, we have to renew it every 3 years. Yeah. Everybody does have a copy of it though, right? Did I send everybody a copy?
Not in this packet.
No, but when it first
Yeah, I
came
saw
out,
a copy of it because I saw my
What was
blank
that?
space.
maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
I'll look back.
It had to be.
Okay.
All right, so Jack, you already did your.
Yeah, my updates are done.
Colleen, you're up. Health agent updates, please.
So, I spoke with the, prospective buyer of 40 North Avenue today. It's actually the tenant. I also spoke with Mr. Audie too, and they are moving forward with the conveyance. They do have a Title V failure. The prospective buyer is aware of it. I had a nice conversation with him. He's gonna send it to us. He also advised me that they are gonna do a holdback for the engineering and the upgrade for the septic system.
Fantastic.
So I was happy to hear that. And I'm gonna be speaking with him tomorrow. He's the tenant there. And, he's, very, aware and anxious to, upgrade the septic system. So it looks like we'll be moving forward with that. Trust me, and I'll keep you.
And how will they do that?
They're holding back the funds from the, sale of the property.
They're not in escrow?
Yeah, yeah, Attorney Harrison is the attorney. Matter of fact, I'm gonna reach out to him tomorrow. I didn't have
Oh, from
time
Upton?
today. Yeah.
I know him.
Mhm. Yeah, we
I
actually
worked
spoke
with
with
him.
him. Yeah, we actually spoke
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah, no, I worked with him many years.
What did you call them?
He was a paramedic.
Oh,
Way back when the paramedics first came to, was it 2181? When they first came to Milford Hospital.
uh-huh.
Nice guy. Good, local.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
oh,
nice guy.
Excellent.
Northbridge Road, I advised the board at the last meeting that he did in fact engage an engineer, however, did request that he appear before the board at the board's next meeting to update the board, so he will be here at the board's next meeting.
10 Northbridge?
10 Northbridge, yep. 3537 Hastings Street, we attended the planning board meeting. We were represented, they're aware of the Board of Health's concerns. Tom's gonna be at the meeting, planning board meeting on the 13th, right?
Well, unless we've heard otherwise, because I know it's kind of funny, Jack simultaneously sent an email to Tom. At the same time, I was sending an email update to the planning board. And I had received a communication from Tom over the weekend that probably he could make the meeting, but he
On
couldn't
May 13th?
on May 13th.
Okay.
He'd be making that meeting remotely if you to make it,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't confirm. He's got a pretty fluid schedule and a lot goes on. So I sent an email, I think I copied you guys.
You did.
Just saying to the planning board that in all probability, it looked like Tom will be there. So, but there is a possibility that maybe he might not.
But we're well represented
We
with regards to the board's concerns
Yeah.
about the on-site septic system, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our notations are in our commentaries and if for some reason Tom couldn't make this and it doesn't prohibit the planning board from going ahead and
Right.
if they feel it's at the point where they can give their blessing.
Right,
Anything that has to do with BOH is gonna get handled down the road anyway. In a more direct manner, anyhow. So,
Yeah. 43 Blackstone Street, we'd be happy to know that Jack was contacted by a Title V inspector who asked for information on 43 and what's the other one?
41 tap in?
41 Taft Ave. So it looks like he is going to be doing Title V inspections and then we should be seeing them soon. I also had suggested to Jack today,
That's the one with the trailer?
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And what's the one in Tapia?
41 Taft Ave.
It's on the lake, not too far from where Danny Kelly's place used to be,
Uh-huh.
on the lakeside.
I also suggested to Jack that we send him a letter and ask him if he would like to attend the next Board of Health meeting.
Good idea, yeah.
Okay.
32 Hastings Street, we went up there, as you know, the septic system is in failure. The good news is that they did file the permit for the perk test. Mr. Nina was in the other day and told Jack and I that they're definitely moving forward with it. Mr. Darling will continue to pump it, and I asked for the pumping slips that they be filed with our office. He said that he would file them. And Chris Lanou was up there to inspect it. He's a Title V inspector, and it is, they acknowledge that they went out in the back. It's just blown open. So they're gonna maintain it until they can do the perks. Stevie Donatelli was also up there and witnessed it too. Then when we do the perks, Stevie will be up there and he's talking about putting in the Presby system.
Okay, now, not that I've heard of the Presby systems before, but because of the size of that plaza, is that a system that we have to adjust our fees? Are there gonna be more inspections? Are the inspections more intense?
I mean, I can check with Steve, I don't,
It shouldn't be, I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
quite frankly, I mean,
Ask him
you
the
know,
question.
it is a bigger septic system, but it's all right
More
there,
efficient.
it's right
Yeah.
there in the,
Yeah, no,
so
just,
that, you know, it takes one.
Yeah.
You know, it's not gonna be, I don't think so.
just ask him the question now so that we can
I
prepare,
don't think
you
so,
know.
that was my thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll double check
Yeah,
with
we
Steve.
just want to cover our expenses.
Yep,
Was there any concerns about, in our last conversation about the location of what is the PWS up there in relation to?
well, they'll have that all configured when they submit the plan for the board's approval.
Do we feel at this point that where the PWS is now in relation to what's been there has been an issue? Is it in compliance with what's situated now?
Well, I would,
Well, it was in compliance when it was first, put in there, but now it's failed, so it's not in compliance.
No, I mean, as far
no,
as,
it's not about the well.
I'm talking
Oh, the
about
well.
the PWS.
Yeah.
Logistically, we kind of looked at where the PWS was in relation to where the system was. We kind of wondered, geez, did that really meet the DEP requirements?
100 feet.
100 feet,
Yeah.
Yeah, been in place.
It's like by the skin of its teeth,
Yeah.
really, it is.
We had-
But,
Well, and where it is a PWS, it's being monitored.
yep,
correct.
it is, because it's a public, drainage
So
supply,
we're
right, so
actually-
the DEP is monitors that.
We're ahead of the game versus if it was a well that wasn't a PWS.
Yeah, because they've got a lot of manganese in that well, they've had to stop it.
Yeah, but that is monitored by the DEP, and those results are, matter of fact, they're filed with our office.
Yeah, we got.
So if the system was affecting it, I would assume that would have shown up in the results already.
Mhm.
So we're okay.
For now. NS Tire, we were down there on Monday and all the tires that were outside in the yard have been put into a Kwanzaa hut. The tires are still in the building. He advised, Jack and I went down there, that he's purchasing another Kwanzaa hut and all those tires are gonna be removed from the building and they're gonna be put into that Kwanzaa hut. The place is all cleaned up.
Yeah,
Good.
like smooth straight around.
Yeah, yeah, he really, very, very cooperative, very nice man, wants to be a good neighbor, wants to comply, it's not his intention. So, and the property owner, Mr. Davies, is also, he was on site for the initial meeting and, again, he wants to be a good neighbor.
Excellent.
Pardon my ignorance, but what's Kwanzaa hut?
You know, those
Arch type buildings.
arch things, the vinyl,
Yeah,
Like a temporary garage?
yeah.
Oh, that's Kwanzaa.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know it had that name to it.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah,
I think once I think like a tiki hut.
I think they came from military.
Yeah.
The military used to have like barracks,
Okay.
remember, McHale's Navy,
yeah.
Hogan's Heroes,
Yeah.
one of those
Okay.
things there. The barracks with those arched structures,
Yeah.
Okay,
and I think that's where it came from.
Yeah.
okay. Well, in our early discussion, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
There you
No,
go.
that's right.
Take a shot.
Right, that's right.
Exactly, no, right.
How do you know,
That's right,
How do you know? How do you learn?
how do you learn if you don't ask?
that's right.
11 Wood Drive, we received a complaint, that was the house that had the fire, they were concerned with the debris. Spoke with the property owner, he was, horrified that, his neighbors felt that, that his intention was for his debris to, travel all throughout the neighborhood. I went up there, I've been up there a few times now, and all the debris that was in front of the garage was gone. He did say that he was getting a dumpster. I haven't seen the dumpster, but all of the debris is gone from in front of the garage, so I don't believe that the neighbor should have any concern. I'll continue to monitor it.
Okay.
But it was again, he wants to be a good neighbor as well. He has every intention of his son, his family, of reoccupying the house once they can.
Right. I know the last time, I think this came up at our last meeting, you had given them the suggestion, I think, of blocking the garage or something.
Right, he hasn't done that yet. I haven't been up there this week. I will take a ride,
Okay.
probably, between now and over the weekend and take a look and see. I hadn't seen the plywood up there yet, but I told him just, as people are going by, there is still some burnt things that are inside that garage. Um,
Terrible story.
yeah, you know, it's unfortunate, and I mean, quite a bit of damage too, quite a bit of damage. And we're just busy. And then with, food truck inspections, I mean, it's, you know, every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday right now. You know, until we get them, until we get them inspected, then there's gonna be repeat, you know, the repeat ones that we've already inspected don't necessarily have to do that. So I'll be up there down Vanderhoek Farm, again this weekend.
Well, with Emily on board, right?
They don't work weekends.
Ah,
No, they're not available on weekends.
okay.
Not at all. And they only come to us once every 2 weeks, right?
Thursdays.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just one day, one full day.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
My granddaughter is working up there
Oh, she is?
on the weekend, yeah, Fridays and Sundays.
Oh, I'll have to seek her out, because I'm gonna be inspecting their, the winery area where they have their food permit. I did a couple
It's
of,
Emily.
Emily? All right, I'll look for her.
Steele, Emily Steele.
I'll, so, but this, they have a full boat Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Very good.
yep. So, we're moving and shaking.
Anything else?
Nope.
Any questions? All right, well,
I had one.
hit me.
Did you have an update out of curiosity on 11 Uxbridge Road? The dumpster?
Oh, yeah, I spoke to them.
Yep.
Yep,
So what is the update?
the update is that they wanted new dumpsters, but I don't think that's gonna happen, like what's going on. He's going to make sure that those covers are repaired and that they're back on.
Did we like give any kind of timeline, or did you give us a timeline out of curiosity? 'Cause they've
ASAP.
been uncovered for quite a while.
Yeah, ASAP.
Okay.
I'm
Just wanted-
monitoring it. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna be up in that area. He told me that, he would take care of it personally,
Where is that?
the, sickos.
Oh,
Yeah, I've had a couple of inquiries from a couple of residents. They've kind of pointed out the fact that there's no cover on it.
Yeah.
And we do have his requirement. that-
Yes, it is a
in the
requirement.
Dumpster regulations.
and isn't Marchand his guy?
Yeah.
They wanted new dumpsters, but I don't know that. I'm monitoring it.
It's time to get a new vendor.
Anything else?
No, that was my only item.
All right, I'll add to that, Halford Ave West
Oh, yeah, I went up
dumpster is
there.
full.
Yeah.
So the things are happening.
Yes,
It's
Is that
probably,
55?
yeah,
it's probably time to empty that one and fill it, get another one.
they did make headway with, I did go up there in front of the garage, all that stuff that was there is no longer there.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed this afternoon that the dumpster was full.
Just maybe just bringing something up, just maybe think of something else.
Uh-oh.
The item 32 Hastings, a couple weeks ago when you had first gone up there with, name escapes me, Isabel.
Isabella,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You saw something there that you were gonna have a conversation with regarding dumpsters in the back of it.
Oh, yeah, that got done, that got taken care of.
So it happened again this past week where it was full, almost so. Something I happened to see, so I just didn't know if you would end up having that conversation to make that person aware that they kind of need to kind of,
Sure,
because it was doing the same thing again.
okay,
Yeah, but, oh, cool, keep an eye on it. I just thought I'd mention it to you that there was a repeat of that same thing you
What's the
saw.
number?
That was up at 32 Hastings. It was one of the
the back,
dumpsters for one of the businesses.
yeah,
That
and
was really,
something.
really overflowing.
All right, so it's not being emptied frequently enough?
Yes, not as frequently as obviously should be.
Okay.
So calling obviously had a conversation, but I noticed it again.
I'll stop in there,
Yeah.
they're always happy to see me.
There you go.
No, they genuinely are.
Oh, good.
Actually, this afternoon around 3:30, I actually drove up that back alley
Yep.
because I wanted to see the septic system, and it was before the downpours.
Oh,
And it
that was
was,
good.
and it was a little wet.
Oh, yeah, it's historically wet,
Yeah,
even when it was a soccer field, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Correct, it was. I used
Yeah.
to coach up there.
There,
Yeah.
any ruts with, on the grass side of the curb were puddles.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
it's,
You know,
I
the fields,
was up
they have
there,
kids,
I was up
Yeah,
there.
kids will be splashing in
Oh, yeah?
water.
all right, anything else on health agent updates, folks?
I'm good.
All right, so we'll move on to topics not anticipated within 48 hours.
I nothing.
Wanna go?
I don't have any,
Oh, okay, thought you might have something.
no.
Well, the only update I have is in regard to the enterprise fund. And did receive a communication back from Jody. Now that things have kind of settled down, the ATM's over with and so forth, she reached out to ask if I could attend next Wednesday's meeting. That you were copied, I don't know if you saw the email.
Yeah.
But to have both Jackie and I meet with her and Eric. They meet every Wednesday at noon.
Mhm.
So I said that would be fine. What I just didn't know was if those meetings, I'm not sure if they were like intended to be completely held remotely or if it's a mix.
It's remotely, he doesn't come in, once a great while, he'll come into the building, but he's out in the Cape area.
So when you've been part of it with Jody, have you been remote as well? You haven't
Yes.
gone to Jody's office?
No, there's always been remote in my office, remote in her office, and remote in his office.
Okay, so I just asked that question again.
Fantastic.
I'm a people person. I wouldn't mind if she didn't mind being actually
I would,
in the office altogether. And
yeah,
Eric could be remote, that's fine.
right.
So,
That, when I was going through the process, that's how I anticipated it. I
yeah,
figured that I would be in Jody's office with her. And I said, if we want to do 11:30, that way there we can get our part out of the way. And then she could move into her
yeah,
general discussion that she has with him every Wednesday,
Right.
assuming that he would be remote.
keep
Did I go using that word again?
your folks posted as that progresses.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking
Right.
the helm on that. Move on to good and welfare for the board. Anybody have anything? The only thing I have is, I've been watching the news, the TB outbreak in California. So,
And cholera.
okay, I,
Measles.
okay, so it
Bird flu.
does happen, folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's all I have.
you know, it's amazing to me that people that and I understand it, it has to do with that fellow from England who said about different vaccinations are causing autism and all that sort of stuff. However, I mean, people have been getting vaccinated forever. I mean, like smallpox vaccine was, and why we have no polio, why we have no measles, but now we have measles.
Mhm.
I believe there's also been polio back detected again.
Right.
Just recently, the case
Yeah,
reported.
you're right. I mean, it's scary that people are not, you know,
Well, part of it, I think, although there is some folks out there who don't follow the vaccination guidelines for religious reasons, and I respect that. But I think even more recently, there's a
and
lot,
what is, what,
well, the religious affiliations don't condone vaccination usage as part of this, as in some religious cultures. And I understand it, I respect it. Like I said, I wouldn't agree with it. But I think more recently, there's been a bit of a distrust, and especially since COVID, with regard to the whole vaccination concept. Just because of all the, probably in a lot of cases, disinformation that got out there, that's people latch onto, and some cases incorrectly.
Right.
So I think that's added to that whole,
but my point again is that, you know, before this movement started, we had no polio. We had no measles. We had no chickenpox. We had no cholera. We had no TB. I mean, in certain countries, you know. I mean, all of these things. And now, wait a minute, I mean, you're believing you're suddenly thinking that this is wrong, that there's something wrong with all these vaccinations? I mean, and now it's coming back, and they are lethal.
Mhm, yeah.
These things are lethal for children.
Just goes to show you how much social distrust exists out there.
But it's too bad because, you know, by and large, the people that are doing it grew up with them. And it's like, wait a minute, you're reading this stuff that this guy in England wrote, saying that autism is caused by, you know, vaccinations, this vaccination and that vaccination and blah, blah, blah. You know, and then he said, you know, I just did it. I thought, you know, I just wrote it. And that's no license anymore. I'm not writing anything, I don't think. But don't matter.
Next meeting,
May 22nd,
7:30,
7:30.
May 22nd.
We have the upper town halls on.
I would assume so. Is that
Thought so
after town
today.
meeting?
If it's open,
Do we want to move up?
I think we should go back and see this.
I wouldn't mind it. I think it's a better audio experience, because when I go and I listen to these meetings here, the audio is not as
Well,
clear.
the audio's right underneath the TV for here, we have our microphones on the table in front of us.
That's what I'm saying. So for those that participate, as you can see, the vast audience that we have.
Yeah,
But I do
they
know,
do watch.
but I do know people come on after and they do. look at these. There's no question.
I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks.
thank you.
What's going on?